Hey guys, HellaBass back here, 2019. Fantasy Fishing Edge. Took a year off in 2018, hoping to get back into this. Gonna do a quick episode. We're against the clock here, only got 12 hours till roster is locked. Gonna go over a few things. Now that Fantasy Fishing FLW has bailed on us, I should be able to stick to a schedule and at least cover the Elite Series events, and because the BPT doesn't have fantasy yet, it shouldn't be too hard. So not a ton of research in this particular episode, but I want to cover some picks, talk about it a little bit, have a quick episode, and just get back in the swing of things and hopefully bring more and better content for the rest of this season. So kind of typically in the past, we kind of revisit some of the fantasy or the social media stuff. A lot of pictures of trucks and not so huge fish and things like that, which leads me to believe the fishing's a little tough. The reports are that the eelgrass has been kind of wiped out of Lake George for this St. John's River event, which is definitely going to change things. Usually half to two-thirds of the field kind of camps in there and works those eelgrass beds over. So I think that really pushes you to want to take people that have either like no experience or a ton of experience, right? So I think the people that have gone down there in the past and have kind of relied on Lake George and really haven't looked at that much else of the water could be in for a rude awakening. Guys like Cliff Prince, who in Bucket D is a total local, should know what to do. He's probably fished there all his life. He should know what to do when the eelgrass disappears in those community holes. So that being said, there's a ton of new faces in Bassmaster, as you all are aware, that follow fantasy fishing. So, you know, it's going to be a trap shoot. It really seems like the buckets are all over the place, especially in this early one. I think you kind of want a mix of some favorites and a mix of a few not so high percentage guys. So that's kind of the strategy I took. Locals always seem to do well in Florida. The Florida factor usually plays a pretty big factor. And a lot of these guys are from all over the country, so they may or may not have a ton of experience in Florida. So Bucket E, I went local. I'm not sure I feel great about that. Shryock does seem like a pretty good pick. Chris Zeldane, when he has a good year, he has a really good year. But, you know, some decent talent. Brian Snowden does pretty well in Florida, but I just went local, especially because he didn't have super high percentages. Bucket D, I think it's hard to pick against Cliff Prince here. The next best, Kyle Monty. I wouldn't necessarily like Bernie Schultz here. He does not have a great track record on the St. John's, but maybe the lack of eelgrass maybe brings the ball back into his court, and he could be a better pick. Rick Morris, he's a guy I like in Florida. He likes to throw that chatterbait, usually does pretty good. Bucket C, I went with the lowest percentage Johnston brother. These guys have caught him for years on FLW in the Bassmaster Opens. I'm not sure, didn't check into how they've done in the St. John's River, but they traditionally do really well in Florida, even though they're from Canada. So I went with the low percentage play, just to kind of go away and not have too many high percentage guys. Bucket B, Seth getting a lot of love. He's probably the biggest name, one of the biggest names left on the Bassmaster Elite Series. Very popular. He's had some good tournaments down in Florida. I wouldn't be surprised if he had a good tournament, along with Jeff Gustafson. He's another Canadian that does well in Florida. I don't know that he spent time on St. John's specifically. But along those same lines, Jamie Hartman, before he took his medical leave, was a real hammer. And I think he does well anywhere there's grass. So that's where I went with the Jamie Hartman. And then finally, Bucket A, there was a lot of good names in here, and a lot of very talented anglers, and a few guys that probably won't stay in A all year long. But overall, I thought Drew Benton, being the Florida guy, I kind of liked that pick and kind of thought it was safe. Didn't want to fall too far behind early in the year. So play it safe because I didn't have time to do as much research, kind of going from the gut, playing from the hip. But that being said, we're going to call that a quick wrap to this episode. Stay tuned, subscribe, hit that notification button, and catch all the episodes of Fantasy Fishing Edge this year. Thanks for tuning in.